Well, happy Saturday, written undeaders. Today's show is going to be extra special because not only do we have the author of the Wild Eyed Southern Boys prequel, we have his freaking narrator, the one and only Stephen Vernon. And because
Jackson idiot.
I managed to double book us again this week. So, but it's not a bad thing. We also have the author of the In the End series, as well as the creator of one of my favorite literary characters, Agent Carrie Harris, the one and only Gareth Stevens. And how are we all doing today?
Doing good.
Very good.
Well, first off, Steve, I'm just going to put it out there for everyone that's tuning in right now. Prepared to be mesmerized by my voice, mesmerized by Stephen Vernon's voice, because this guy has got some pipes. So now, when did you decide to start narration?
Actually, several years ago, like 25 years ago, the town I live in had a small studio that took Japanese animated pornography and translated it into English. So
okay,
the animation would have original Japanese dialogue, and English speaking actors would do the English, so that when American audiences watched it, they would hear an American voice versus a Japanese voice, called overdubbing. And I did that for a couple of years. And then many years later, I developed a staph infection that put me in the hospital for 19 days. And I had a wound vacuum attached to my back where they had to cut out a huge chunk of flesh.
Ooh.
And I wasn't able to work. And a friend of mine told me about a website where I encountered Richard eventually, which is called Upwork. It's a website for freelancers. And, I'd always enjoyed doing voice acting. So I bought a microphone and started doing voiceovers on that platform. And I've been an actor for 30 some years. So as far as performance goes and using my voice live on stage or on film, I already had some experience with that. So it just seemed like a natural fit while I was unable to leave the house to work. So.
Well, Richard, I was going to say, Richard, it only makes sense. Break this down for us, man. How did this wonderful marriage happen?
Well, I went out to ACX website, and I must have had about at least 15 auditions, and maybe out of that 15, 3 were actually, 2 were decent, and 1 was really good. And the one that was really good was yours truly, Steve Vernon. And that's because I went away from ACX and went to Upwork because I wasn't really finding exactly what I wanted on ACX. So, I reached out to Upwork, got a couple of auditions from there, and I listened to Steve's because, everybody's from the South. Everybody's from East Tennessee pretty much in my first book. And it's like, well, I need someone who can do an authentic Southern accent, not sound like Colonel freaking Sanders. And so, Steve, I looked up his resume and everything. He's from North Carolina, and he was doing an actual, well, he sounds like he's from Tennessee almost, and so I reached out, I looked at him, and I saw his resume, just like you said, he's got a ton of acting experience and, all kinds of, he had a really impressive resume compared to the other narrators. I'm like, this looks like my guy. So we had a quick interview, and I said, okay, when do we start? So I got a question for you, Steve. I was almost surprised, somebody of your stature, reaching out and wanting to give a brand new book from a brand new author with a ridiculous plot your time of day. So what led you to applying for this position for book 1?
I got to be honest, I look for unusual projects to work on. I've done a lot of voice. Yeah. The very first audiobook I ever narrated, a woman in England had found a book published in 1901 written by a New Hampshire minister on the best way to get your hens to lay eggs. And she literally sent me mimeographed copies of each page. And this was for her private listening. She wasn't going to publish it or try to monetize it. She just wanted to be able to listen to this book about getting chickens to lay eggs. And whoever this guy that wrote it, like I said, he was a minister from the northeastern part of the states, New Hampshire, I believe. And it was one of the funniest books I had ever read. This guy's sense of humor was so wicked, and just, you know, and the subject sounds dry and boring, but it was so entertaining. And after that, you know, I just became more and more attracted to unusual projects. So
That's sweet.
Okay.
So now the first time you got to read through Richard's book, what was your actual initial first impression?
My first impression, looking at the word count, was I wonder if Richard knows what an editor is.
I did have an editor for the
Right.
record.
You know, and I told Richard this pretty early on. I don't read the material before I record it. I like to encounter it as I'm recording it. The reason being, like, if I know a character is going to die 3 chapters later, subconsciously that can affect how I deliver lines, you know, and acting, we call it playing the end of the scene instead of playing the moment that you're in. So, and you know, there's pros and cons to recording that way, but I really didn't know what to expect initially, other than from, you know, Richard's description. He was kind enough to send me a list of the characters and their physical appearance and what their voice may or may not sound like. So that gave me an idea kind of what I was in for. But yeah, I try not to think too much. I try not to judge the material until I'm at least halfway through it.
Well, now the big question would be, after actually getting to read it and narrate it and literally bring those characters to life, would you consider yourself a fan of the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. First off, man, if you can make a pun title out of a 38 Special song from the 80s, hell yeah, baby. Yeah, I was, you know, I've spoken to friends who have asked me about that particular title. You know, friends like to know what I'm working on. And, you know, I've told them that, yeah, I'm a fan of the book. And, you know, one of the things that I really appreciated about it, and appreciated what Richard was able to do. You know, when I record, I try to keep an ear out for the emotions that are being expressed in the work too, because I don't want it to just be dry, like reading a story. I want the listener to become involved emotionally. And there were moments where Richard had me smiling or chuckling to myself, but there are also moments that were very powerful, you know, sad moments. There are a couple of characters that when their deaths happened, you know, I was literally getting a lump in my throat, which lets me know that the fact that I didn't have to force that emotion was a good indication to me that I was becoming wrapped up in what Richard had written. So that hopefully that would translate to the listener or the reader as well.
That's
Well,
sweet.
definitely, absolutely does. Go, Jen.
I do have a question about, like, when you're doing your different interpretations of imitations of like different areas around the world.
Mhm.
How do you get yourself in the zone, I guess, would be, do you have a ritual before you do any readings, or, you know, are you summoning demons, or are we just standing here and you're just like, okay, we're going to let it fly, you know, we'll see what happens.
You know, I look for inspiration from sources that aren't connected to the book at all. For example, if I'm recording a book and I know that it takes place in a certain area of the world, I'll watch cooking videos from people from that area of the world, or local news cast or things like that.
Oh, wow, okay.
just to try and get an idea, because, you can have an accent and that's all well and good.
Mhm.
But, each dialect or accent has its own rhythm too. Some places it's a more sing-song kind of rhythm, other
Mhm.
places it's kind of clipped. So I just try to get an ear for how people in that area of the world may speak. And I use that more of a starting off than thinking about characters or anything like that. I like to start that broadly.
Do you do like, I know they have that method acting type of acting where you're like in character all the time. Do you method voice? I don't know if that would be the term for it, but
That would probably be the term for it. I'm in danger of getting kicked out of the acting brotherhood for sharing the secret, but I think method acting is bullshit. So
Call it like you
Love
see it, bro.
it works for some people, but it's never really worked for me.
Mhm.
And of course there's 100 different definitions of what method acting is. That's an
Absolutely.
entire series of podcasts. But no, I again, like I try to attach to whatever emotion is being expressed. So in that sense, yes, kind of a method, but yeah, it's not that I don't go that deep into what did the character have for breakfast, did the character have a
Right.
good childhood or things like that. It's more about the emotion in the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. That was a great question.
Thank you.
Very freaking cool, though. Now, my thing is, as I've been listening to what you're doing right now that nobody else gets to know about, how many times have you had to like stop at some point and go, and nope, doesn't like that, and then start over again?
Oh, it's constantly. I'll deliver a line and immediately, like 2 sentences later, realize, yeah, there's a different way to deliver that phrasing that I should have looked at. So it's not uncommon for me to record the same section of lines 2 or 3 times and then kind of decide which one to keep. The great thing about audio editing is, like a 10-minute audio chapter that you're listening to can be taken from 4 or 5 different recording sessions and edited together to get what you want out of it. So yeah, there's a lot of stopping and starting.
Well, I guess this is a question for both Richard and for you. How much time did you two spend together collaborating on what each of his characters would sound like?
I would send a file to Richard. Richard would send comments back to me that he thought something should sound a little different. But to be honest with you, there wasn't a whole lot of that going on other than just making sure that Richard was satisfied with a particular delivery.
Yeah, I mean, I would listen to the audio files as he, put them in the Dropbox there, and I'd always, send him feedback with the time hack as to where, when he says this or says that, or but I mean, it wasn't a painful process at all. I mean, it was, just little, minor tweaks here and there, and especially with some of the weird names I've had in there. It's like, actually, his name's pronounced like this, not like that,
Yep. I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, he had, it was, even with a 170,000 word book, it didn't seem to take, very long at all to get the thing ready to package and send to ACX for get them to publish it.
That's freaking cool. Well,
Mhm.
as I mentioned earlier during the intro, we don't have just one author and his narrator. We have a secondary author.
Mhm.
I say begrudgingly because I love him so much. The one and only Gareth Stevens. And I do believe you got all kinds of stuff going on right now. I don't even know where to start with you because you're just firing on all cylinders at the moment with the conventions, with the new releases, with the cover changes, with all kinds of interesting stuff going on. What's been happening with you, bro?
Well, yeah, I'm just releasing all the time. I'm writing at the moment a new series. It's a weather apocalypse series, but it's taking me an awful long time to write. It's always the way with a new series. You have to build the world. and you're building it as you go. So it
Yep.
just takes, the first book always takes longer. So I'm getting frustrated with how long it's taking. So I've started doing lots of short stories just to get my fix of writing Carrie Harris and publishing and getting some work out there so my fans don't forget who I am.
I don't think you're
going
going to be forgettable.
I was gonna
You're-
say, how could they? I see you're on Facebook. You are at conventions.
Yeah,
all
you're a
the
machine,
time.
Gareth, man. I think you do even better than I do, man. Good gosh.
So all I can
But
do
it-
is
yeah.
do the weekly link drops, let alone everything that you do on there.
I know. How do
know,
you
right?
have so much
Yeah.
energy? And I do a lot of crap during the day, and you're like out there you're posting everything. So
he
Yeah.
doesn't sleep. He doesn't
That's
sleep.
it.
I think he's a
Oh.
robot.
You might be onto something, Angel.
I'm just
Well-
addicted to writing and everything around it, and I don't do things by half, so that's normally
Alright,
a
well,
problem.
evidently,
Evidently,
Yeah.
well, Gareth, I actually have a question for you, Gareth. I've been dying to ask you since you live in Britain.
Yeah.
How are you close to any Roman ruins or anything like that?
Well, I wouldn't say so. I mean, obviously, everywhere in the UK, there's a bit of history somewhere.
Mhm.
You can't help but when you go for a drive and see, apart from in the, where I live is a bit quiet for that. But then you've got like Windsor Castle is just down the road from us, and some of the best
what
towns.
part of Britain are you in, Gareth? If you
So
don't
I'm
mind.
in Slough near Windsor, just outside of London.
Oh, okay.
SLOUGH.
SLOUGH. That's right. Yeah.
Yay, I
It's
got
a
it right.
horrible name for a town, to be fair. But
you guys have some of the coolest and some of the worst I've seen.
yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of got a reputation as being a bad place, but actually it's a really nice place to live. It's
that's
really up and
wonderful.
coming. And if you go just outside of Slough, there's some amazing places. But yeah, it's good for us. But some of my favorite places in the UK are Roman towns like York and Bath. They're amazing places to visit, very tourist related, wonderful architecture, lovely little
Mhm.
towns and cities.
Oh, that's funny because me and Jack, we were talking about Bath, England in my podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We sure were. In
It is
fact,
an amazing place.
sometimes I wonder, is it the name of a city or is it just a suggestion?
Absolutely. Well, Bath's got it's an amazing mixture of new stuff in this Roman town, which is surrounded by walls, loads of architecture. You've got the Roman baths there as well. And then
Yep.
right in the middle of there, you've got this relatively brand new, it's probably about 10, 15 years old now, but it's a 7 or 8 story building with a thermal spa sitting on top of the building. So you
Oh
can go
wow,
to this
nice.
amazing thermal spa and just sit there and look out at the city. It is lovely. Very
Well,
nice.
look, I want to get straight to the meat of the bone on this for me today. When did Carrie Harris first pop into your mind?
Oh, that's quite easy because she was in my first book. So when I first started writing I think it's probably about 15 years. People ask me that a lot. How long have you been writing for? And I say 10 years. So I've been saying that a long time. So it must be about 15 years now. And so I wrote that, just put pen to paper, and it was kind of like me if I was writing about what I'd like to do. And it was about a guy who can make you believe anything you want as long as he's touching you. And I wrote that. Must have taken me about 9 years because that's how I learned to write, was writing that book and getting it sent out to people to check it out and then coming back and saying that's terrible, let's rewrite it. But Carrie was one of the major supporting characters in that book. So
Now, was she a
there.
badass agent in that book, or was she?
She's
for
exactly
the-
the same as she is now.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. She's exactly the same character, just 15 years older. And so I wrote another 2 books after that, which kind of went on a bit of a tangent, bit of a sci-fi tangent. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to release them, but I loved writing her so much. As soon as I finished that series, I had to give her an origin story, which was Operation Dawn Wolf.
Which I love.
And I loved writing that so much, I had to continue writing, and I haven't stopped writing since. Whatever I'm doing, I wrote wrote 6 books before I first published one. And when I wrote In the End, which is my zombie book, first book in the zombie series, which
First
I then
book of yours
published.
first book of yours I ever listened to.
Yeah. Once I'd published that, found out how relatively easy it was, and found out that people would actually buy my work, I thought, I'm going to go back, look at all my old stuff, find out I really had to re-edit all of it. And then I started releasing it. And so I'm 7 books out of 9 of my old work, slowly releasing them, but my new work is taking over. So yeah, we'll see.
So In the End was your first, like
So,
In the End
First published
series?
book, yeah.
Right, right.
Oh,
And then,
and
then
Gareth, tell
carried
her
it.
how that series starts. Like I'm talking page 1, your main character. What's
Yeah,
going
so-
on there?
Oh, I have it. I have the series.
Uh,
I haven't read it in a while because I had stopped due to whatever reasons that were going
Oh.
on in life at that moment. But definitely tell me about that very beginning, because that's like horror right there.
Yeah, so that's it starts with the lights going out and the radio stopping, the music stopping, everyone's at a party, a group of friends, and then they basically don't know what's going on, so they're hunting to find out what's going on. There's talk of a nuclear reactor exploding, there's talk of all sorts happening, but they basically just end up having to run for their lives. And I wrote that book and in chapters, because I was having maybe a few drinks with some friends, and and my friend said, we always used to talk about the apocalypse. What would happen? What would you do if it happened? Where would we meet up? And she said to me, why don't we write a story together? I'd written 6 books by this time. No, but never published anything. She doesn't like writing. She's never written. So she forgot about it really quickly. And I decided to just have a play around. And I wrote the first chapter. And I sent it to her on WhatsApp. And she was hooked. She thought it was fantastic. So the next day I sent her another chapter. And then it just carried on. I was publishing a chapter a day to her on WhatsApp, 1 a day. I had to slow down to 5 because it was getting really stressful. And then when I started going down to 5, she was ringing me up saying, where's my chapter?
Damn. See, I'm going through that right now with these 2 guys right here. Since I'm getting to listen to them as they come out, I'm almost like, Steven, shouldn't you be recording right now while we're doing this? I mean,
That's exactly what was happening. But I'm out doing something. She's like, why are you there? Why are you not writing? So then she sent it to her friend, and her friend started really enjoying it. So I was getting feedback from 2 places. And at one time, my friend said, my friend is really enjoying this so much. Can we put her in it? So I said, okay, yeah, sure. Give me some character traits, bit of how she looks, etc. And so she told me she's got a tattoo of, I think it was Mickey Mouse from Fantasia on her arm.
very famous tattoo.
Yeah,
Yes.
and she likes garlic bread or something like that. Anyway, so I wrote that into the chapter about a week later, and she just exploded when she found out, when she realized it was her. So yeah, after writing that, I thought, oh, other people want to look at this, so I started posting it as a blog. So halfway through, instead of sending it by WhatsApp, I was sending it on a blog. And more people were enjoying it. And so in the end, I decided to publish it just for fun. I went through
In the end,
yes.
In
I
the
say that a lot.
Unintended.
Absolutely. My kids hate me when I do that. Sometimes I actually- and so
well,
I
we love
re-edited
you
it.
for it.
Thank you. I took it stayed pretty much as it was when I sent it originally. Obviously, just grammar changes, etc. Had it professionally edited, released it, and it went down really well. So I just carried on writing them.
Well, how many books did you say you have? Like 9 total right now? Or?
So I have. I get asked this a lot as well, and I always forget. So 10 at the moment. 10 released books, plus I have 2 novellas and 3 short stories. And I'm writing Weather Apocalypse, as I said. So it's quite
Wow.
fun at my little convention things or little fairs where I have a table full of my books. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So no pressure, Jennifer and the boys.
Really.
And no pressure, Jack. Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's what I do.
I gotta talk to you after the show, Jack. All right?
Uh-oh. Sorry,
Oh, it's
my
nothing
liege.
bad, Jack. It's nothing bad. It's about your paperback. It should be coming soon.
Ooh, this makes Jack happy because as we're doing all these new releases with Garrett's got stuff dropping, Richard's got stuff dropping, Angel also has something dropping. Hey, let's take a minute. Just Angel, give everybody a heads up on what you got coming out right now.
Well, it's already out, Ashley. Is my city building lit RPG. Jennifer read it for me, and I think she was enjoying it. It's I don't know how many of you have heard of Knit RPG. I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever heard of it, Gareth.
I've heard of it because of you.
Literary
that's-
art, literary role playing game.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like Jack would know better. It's like Sim City combined with Greek mythology. That's kind of the biggest selling point, the Greek mythology. And so far, people are liking it, man. So far, it's so
Right.
good. Yeah, one person reading it right now says he needs to go back and play Sim City now.
See, you're spreading
be
an
honest with
infection
you.
out there.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Angel. I bought your first the Fifth Survivor. Of course, I have it in print that you sent me, but I bought the audio book, started listening to it, and I got just a little ways into it, and I had to stop because I'm like, well, screw this. I want to play the game. I don't want to just listen. I want to play the game.
No,
So
yeah,
I'm going to go
exactly.
back and read it, and so I can, get involved in it, in the story and everything. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's definitely a different animal. Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely
It
a
should
different
be a
animal.
game. You should actually, I've told you in the past, you need to push that to some video game developer and like, y'all need to make this for me. Because, dude, that would be a fun game to play.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, some of the bigger RPG authors have tried it, but it's not as easy as you think. It's actually a very tough process because some of the bigger authors in my genre have tried it and been unsuccessful.
Well,
So
you never know if you
but
don't
you never
go.
know. You're right. You're right.
Hey, Steve, how many books do you have under your belt?
It's funny because a friend of mine who also narrates audiobooks has invited me to do his podcast next week. And he asked me the
Cool.
same question, and I honestly don't know. A lot of the times I've been hired by people who wanted me to use a pseudonym as a narrator.
Why?
They wanted the narrator to match the author name. It's almost like a ghost writer, but I'm a ghost narrator. So I
That's dumb.
go back and
That's
actually
weird.
look through old contracts just to figure out how many I've actually done. But I can tell you, since the pandemic began 2 years ago, I believe I've recorded 10 audiobooks. One was for a gentleman. He had a series of 4 books that he wrote about a hard-boiled detective. I've just done 3 children's books back to back for a woman who's
Oh, cool.
series for like 3 to 6 year olds. I just knocked out 2 erotic short stories for a collection that somebody's putting together. Of course, Wild-Eyed Southern Boys, and then a couple of like really dry like how-to manuals. One on audio editing and one on investing, which is another reason why I enjoy working on stuff like what Richard writes, is because it keeps me interested. When you're doing nonfiction about a subject that you really don't care about, and
Mhm.
it's basically like a workbook for an accountant or something like that, it's really hard to get motivated. But
Would just please don't do any KPX training videos because we have to listen to those freaking things at least once a month because I will grow to hate you. I swear I will grow to hate you. I will find you and I will stomp on your big toe.
What if he does
Don't
it
do
in
that.
Buford's voice or Bartholomew's voice? I mean,
Well, then I won't learn anything because I'll be like, it's Buford.
yeah.
How long does it normally take you, Stephen, to do a book?
It depends. the subject material has a lot to do with that. If there's, a lot of names and a lot of different character voices, it takes longer. But basically, every 10,000 words equates about an hour's worth of material.
Okay.
And it takes about 4 hours to create an hour's worth of material. So you figure if you've got
Wow.
10,000
I did. Yeah, that
words,
blew my mind just then.
Yeah.
4 hours to get 1 hour.
yeah, because you've got to record it, you've got to go through and edit it, you've got to go through and do the mastering, and then you have to listen to it after you've recorded it to make sure that there's no screw ups or extra noises or anything like that. So, it's funny because at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody who was ever told they had a pretty voice went out and bought a microphone and started calling themselves voiceover artists. And that's fine. Nothing, God bless. But so many people are ill prepared for how much work actually goes into it. It's not as simple as just sitting down and reading a story one time and turning it in. So
Yeah, see, Javin tried to trick me into doing that, and I knew right away, no, sir. No, sir, I am not a narrator. So I can be an idiot on the camera, but that's it.
gotcha.
I was actually entertaining that, but with the horrible auditions I was getting for my audiobook, I'm like, crap, I don't know if I'm going to get anybody that's worth a crap to do this book. Maybe I'll just record it myself, and thank God I didn't go there.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
Garrett,
like
keeps-
disappointing.
I've had people ask me, are you doing the voice for the audiobook? I'm like, no, I hired a pro. I got an actual voice actor doing that. You don't want me to.
No.
No, you don't. Yeah.
I also, I've been editing audiobooks that other people have recorded for a company, and these are all like in the self-help genre. And it's 90% of it is authors who've decided they want to narrate their own audiobooks. And yeah, they know the subject material, but they have no idea how to speak into a microphone in a way that's pleasing to the ear. So, it'll take me twice as long to edit something that somebody else has recorded that doesn't have any experience, because it's literally like trying to splice words together because they've screwed up a pronunciation, or they've exhaled loudly into the microphone. One of the most painful lessons I learned at the beginning of recording was don't skip meals, because there's nothing like recording an hour's worth of material and realizing the mic picked up your grumbling stomach.
Oh, damn.
And there's no way to edit that out. The way you fix that is you eat a damn
Do it.
sandwich and re-record. So, yeah, it's really tough if you've never done it before and you think you're just going to jump in and be able to knock it out. You need to be a little more realistic in your thinking.
Well, now, Gareth, I want to drag you in on this one because your narrator for the Carrie Harris series is fantastic. What's her name again?
Deborah Baum.
Well, now, first question is, can we get her on the show at some point?
I can
Followed up by, how many narrators did you go through before you landed on her? I mean, not in the biblical sense.
I think I went through probably 4 or 5. I know with just going back to in the end, when I knew straight away when I had that narrated, as soon as I heard the guy's voice, Jim Harborn, I was like, yeah, he's the one for me, definitely. With Carrie, I think it was similar, but not quite as easy. But I'm really, really pleased with Deborah. Yeah, it's great. I tell you what, I hate listening to my own audiobooks, though. That's one of my least favorite tasks as an author is listening back to them to approve them. I can't stand it.
So now, Richard, I'm going to follow up with you on that one, because we've recently heard from an author who actually likes to listen to their audiobooks because of the narrator. So is that like a thing? Do you, I mean, obviously you don't like to hear your own books back, but Richard, you got to love hearing Stephen freaking voicing those characters.
I absolutely do. Even after, we've gone through all the sound files and, giving him all my feedback and everything. And then once we put it all together and once it got released on ACX, I went ahead, I listened to the whole book all over again.
Wow.
and I've even started listening to it again just to refresh my memory on a few things because I'm going into, I'm like 3 chapters into the 3rd installment, and I want to make sure that I, everything aligns, that I didn't forget
Yeah.
something happened here, and then,
Make sure the names are the same.
Right, right, yeah. But I mean, I absolutely, I tell you what, I could not wait to hear a narrator do my book, because it brings the story to life and like never before. And yeah, I absolutely enjoyed. I mean, I love listening to the book, and it's also it's nice, especially me being brand new to being a writer. I'm like listening to the how everything's, it's different when you read it out loud yourself or read it on a piece of paper, but when you hear somebody acting it out, it's like, oh, so this is really cool. And he really brings emotion into it, and excitement into the action scenes and everything. It's better to me. I think it's just it's better than reading it. Even it's almost like watching a movie with no picture. But
Yeah.
Steve, you have successfully managed to have so many people that have either A, listened, or B, read the original Wild Eyed Southern Boys want to go kill Rich. Like literally, you wrote some emotion into a thing that happens that I am not going to give away right here. If y'all want to know about it, you know what to do. Go get the damn book. But something goes down, and you spoke it so well. You brought so much emotion into it that we literally were like, oh no,
Right.
no. And things happened and things went down. But yeah, Richard was literally in danger for a short time, at least for us audiobook listeners, on the way you portrayed a certain part of book 1. And I'm getting the last because there's people that they already know. They know what I'm talking about. For the of you out there that don't, you know what to do. The damn
I
book.
believe
I'm
Steve was
gonna have
mad
to
at
get
me
it.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's the part that I'm pretty sure it is. I remember politely telling Richard to F off for doing.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, that is wonderful.
You're not the
That's
only
good writing there, Richard.
one. Thank you.
But that's one of the things. I'm fascinated by writers. I'm not a writer myself, but I work with a lot of playwrights that are producing original material and working with authors on audiobooks and things like that. And I'm just blown away at the dedication and the commitment and the will that it must take to sit down and create a piece of literature. I mean, to me, that's an astounding talent. And, out of respect for writers, I look at my job as it's up to me to interpret what that person has created to help become a vessel so that it gets from the creator of the product to the consumer of the product. And when you're able to latch on to emotional elements and strong character building, and Gareth, what you described earlier about creating that world, it takes a while to create the world, the show Bible, we would call it in acting. But it's the amount of work that goes into creating a reality that when it's done well, the reader or the listener can actually tell you what color the flowers are in this person's lawn, or they could tell you the societal rules of behavior that exist in that universe. And to me, writers that can tap into that, they're a treasure, man. What a beautiful talent to have.
The Angel's an example of that because of his historical fiction, because he takes a lot of time and effort in making sure that he is accurate in anything he's saying. Even though he's working his fiction into it, he's also making sure that the details of certain buildings, certain structures, the way things were done, they're all deadly accurate.
Hell, even his timeline too. When I had the question for Angel about, because there's the Roman and the Greek pantheons of gods and goddesses, I had thought that the Romans created their own shortly after the Greeks had theirs. No, come to find out, his area, when his story takes place, they're still under the Greek gods and goddesses. So that was enlightening for me. And I appreciated that Angel took that much time to be that particular with his details. It was really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Well, now, Angel, I know there are no current plans on making King Minos into an audiobook unless it, gets to rolling and selling. But if you do get to the point where you're like, yep, this needs to be audiobook, what are you going to be looking for in a narrator?
Well, obviously he's got to know that the accent. The biggest thing is the accent. Obviously, this is a Greek. Obviously you can't get obviously I would like to use you, Jeff, but it ain't gonna come out good. So sorry. Basically, the narrator I have for the Grace Antonio will be pretty darn good if I can get him to do that one.
Well, heck yeah. Well, now, Steve, since we're on this subject, and I've got you here because I do intend on before this show is over, having you drop some Buford and Rue and some of the others for us because I'm a nerd like that. Can you do a Roman centurion preparing for battle?
Only if he's a deaf mute.
Hey, can't argue with honesty.
Exactly. If you're asking me to do that right now,
Putting him on the spot.
Yep, it's my job.
I think I shall prepare for battle, but with a Roman accent.
Swords and shields.
And it's accents are such a fine line anyway, because you want to pay respect to the accent that a character should have, but you also don't want to be so authentic with your accent that the average American listener is going to get lost and not be able to follow along.
Making it too thick.
Yeah. So a lot of times just a hint of an accent is easier on modern ears than going full on. At least that's been my experience. But yeah, and a lot of times too, an accent for me is defined by the physical appearance of the character, not just the geographical location. If you've got a character that you want to have coming across as imposing or strong or whatever, you might go with a deeper tone. Whereas if you have a character that's not meant to be taken quite so seriously, you can go with a little bit higher tone or pitch. So yeah, because I'm confident in my skills without being a braggart, I believe I could do a Roman centurion preparing for battle, but I would enjoy looking at the text before I attempted it.
Freaking awesome. Now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to give you a heads up there, Steve, when book 3 comes around, and I hope you're going to be up for doing that one, because you're going to be the first person I go to, obviously. But it's going global, so you might want to brush up on some accents.
Oh, I'm not scared of going global, baby.
All right, good.
I like it.
He said, "Bring it on, challenge.
Bring it on, baby. Bring it on."
You'll have to talk funny like Gareth there.
And you had some international stuff going on with the first one.
Yes, the whole French thing.
Yeah. So and again, like with that character, I didn't feel the need to go full on French, but knowing what people might be expecting from a voice from that type of character. Again, I didn't want to go thick with the accent, but
you did it right.
Well, thank you.
Me being a country boy, you did it right. Like, you took us to where we knew this guy wasn't from around here.
Right.
But you didn't make him where we had no idea what the hell that boy just said. So
and that's
great job on that.
Yeah, that is that fine line, but thank you.
Well, now, Gareth, how do you deal with, things you would say in England that maybe we don't say over here, like a lorry or anything like that? Do you ever worry that when you're trying to sell to the US that maybe we might not get certain things, and so you change them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially the common things like cars. like the boot and the bonnet. It's quite a big one, especially
My
in
friend Daniel, who I showed earlier, brought up the bonnet. He
Yeah.
was like, well, they say some weird shit over there.
I don't even know what
Yeah,
the hell you're
that's
talking
it.
about.
especially in apocalypse books, because you have long queues of cars. So if you've got a scene there, you've always got to talk about the boot and the bonnet. So kind of try and find a different way, because you don't want to alienate your British audience either. And tarmac, that's another one. Yeah.
Well, now we know that's pavement.
Pavement, blacktop, all that sort of stuff, sidewalk. It's all so many different things. But I try. I mean, my books are based in Britain most of the time. There is some stuff that's set in the US, but I just try and write for a British audience, and then maybe when I'm editing, I might smooth some of that out so it's a bit more ambiguous as to where it is.
Well, us country Midwestern ass folks over here, we appreciate that.
Well, your
I'm not
narrator,
Midwest
he-
anymore, but I do love your books.
Yes.
of course, your narrator, he sounds, British.
Yeah, that's it.
I
Little
guess
bit.
it's okay because it's in Britain, just like mine's in East Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of I would say a large proportion of my books sell in the US, and so you get very few that say, "Oh, that word's spelt wrong," when it's actually spelled the British way. Because there are a few differences, not too many, but some very common words are spelt differently.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is quite interesting.
Well, it's like y'all misspell the word football. No, that's soccer.
SOCCER. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, just so we know. But
yeah,
man,
that's it.
Gareth, the In the End series, to me, it's been one of the darker series I've gone through, because you kept a lot of seriousness in, where a lot of times with a lot of what I read, for example, Chris Philbrook, Adrian's Undead Diary, is freaking hilarious. You don't work in a lot of funny. Was that by design, or was that just what was coming out of you?
Partly by design. It was trying to be realistic. I based the book on how I think I would, or someone normal would, go through that process, and basically they'd be scared to hell.
Yep, me.
So
Mhm.
that's how I wrote it. I mean, there's a tiny bit of comedy in there, just situational, but it's not meant to be too light, but it's also not meant to be too dark. But I have been told a lot it is quite dark, which I'm really pleased with.
So now, have you considered writing anything outside of what you're currently writing on? My example, because I've got Richard here, and I can't help but keep bringing it up because I love it so much. Have you thought about trying to do like a Yeti, a Sasquatch, a cryptid of some sort series?
I'd say no, and mainly because, and that's almost a commercial reason, because so I have the two series. I have the stuff when you're facing the public with your stack of books. I say to them, well, I've got two series. I write action thrillers. I've got two series in that genre. One is zombies, and it's like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And they will look at me one of two ways. One will be like, oh my God, that's exactly my genre. And then they'll buy the set straight away. Or 90% of the time they'll say, yeah, that's not for me. And then they'll try and walk away. And then I'll say, and I've also got this series here, which is about set in the real world.
Yeah, see, that's why you got to stay away from the Marmite comment. Me and Rich had a thing with Marmite.
I can still taste it.
That's why I'm wiping right now, making sure there's none still stuck
But people
here.
in the UK
If
really
it's
know what you
anything
mean
like
by that.
Vegemite, I'm good. No thanks.
Yeah, it is pretty much like Vegemite. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. So
Nasty
no,
Mike.
I'm not planning on writing anything too out there. But my first books, the books that Carrie first appeared in, they after the first one, they do go a bit left field. They do go more sci-fi, and that's why I've left them to the side for the moment, because I don't think they're very marketable.
So now, what made you go zombies with Carrie? Which, trust me, I'm in.
Sure.
I ain't critical at this point. I'm just basically asking, what made you do that? Because you were already winning with her just being a special agent.
Absolutely. And this is just a test, really. This short story that I've written is a test to see whether people like it, because I love Carrie and I want to get her more out to the people, because most of my fans are zombie fans. So I want to get her out to those people. And I think that's a really good way of introducing him. So that was Roseanne Powell. So she suggested it. She said, wouldn't it be amazing if, I think it was a post on Written Undead. And she said, wouldn't it be amazing if Carrie came together with zombies? So that was about a year ago.
And I don't know why I didn't think of that, because I literally, she is like Michonne meets Carol meets badassery all in
Ooh.
3 characters.
Yeah.
She is that freaking cool. And then you throw her into the zombie apocalypse, it's like, all
Yeah.
right.
But
Let's
the
go.
zombie apocalypse that I will write, if I do write it, it will. If I do write a full novel, it will be a more realistic interpretation of how it might happen, and it won't be end of the world. It will be situations that she helps to prevent, as opposed to the world is now full of zombies. Because
So
that's
you
what
mean
I'm
you mean
entering.
like the zombie apocalypse is trying to start,
Yes,
and she keeps
exactly.
squashing it every time it tries to rise. Carrie,
You got it,
dude.
That's exactly
Dude,
it.
Zombie outbreak response team. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in.
Nice.
I'm in. I'm just saying, I'm in.
Right. The problem I've got now is I think I said to you, Jack, you're probably one of the only people that know that a couple of weeks ago I was at a fair in Salisbury. That's fairly I think that might be a Roman town as well, Angel. And I had loads of people bought Operation Dawn Wolf, and I had 2 emails a few days later. One of them was from someone who said, I've read your book and I really liked it. Thank you very much. The second one was saying, I've read your book and I really liked it. Oh, and by the way, I'm a film and TV scout. And I know a producer who
Wow.
would like to read your work. So I said, oh, and this was about 11 o'clock at night, and I was just about to go to sleep, and I thought, I'm shaking. I'm never going to be able to sleep. So I quickly replied saying, she said, can I send it to her? So I quickly replied saying, yes, I'll send it in the morning. And so I did. She replied back, this is the producer, after Googling her name, and she's got an IMDb listing and everything. So that's great. And I actually looked at the scout, who's actually an agent. I Googled her and she's all over the place. So that's great. And she replied back saying, great, I can't wait to read it. She read it within about 2 weeks, which is quite unusual. That's normal. It's normally a lot slower than that. And ultimately, she said, it's not something they want to take on at the moment, but we've got this idea for making it into a serialized podcast or something. I still don't know what's happening there, but anyway, about 2 days ago, I got another email from the agent saying, actually, she's changed her mind. And because I've spoken to her about all of your other Carrie works, the fact that Operation Dawn Wolf doesn't sit on its own, it's a series of work. And so
yes, it is.
I've been having a conversation with her the last couple of days, and she wanted to read all the other books. And she wanted me to produce a summary of all the other books. So I was frantically tapping away last night, writing a summary for all of the Carrie Harris books, which is unbelievably difficult. You're boiling down maybe 100,000 words into 4 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Without making it sound ludicrous. Because some of the concepts are, they're quite natural in the book because they build. But when you suddenly just put them into a paragraph, it sounds ludicrous. And so that went off to her this morning with every single one of my Carrie Harris books and Fate's Ambition, where she first appeared. So we'll see.
Man,
Fingers crossed. Holy crap.
we are absolutely behind you 110% all
Definitely.
the freaking way.
If you think about it, the way I try to think about it is it's probably a process. Maybe there's 10 steps that you have to pass 10 steps for it actually to become realized and get onto the screen. So I'd say I'm maybe at step 2. So I'm not getting overexcited about it because lots and lots of people maybe get to step 1, a few less get to step 2. So we'll just see what happens.
Well, hey, just for fun here, because we get to do that on this show. Benedict Cumberbatch, main character. Just saying, throwing it out there, putting it out there in the ether. let it flow, let it breathe,
Yeah.
let it breathe, let it
I'm
go.
not sure I'll get a hand in casting, but we'll see.
All right, well, guys, go
Okay.
ahead, Rich.
I was just going to ask Steve, you know, if they ever made Wild Eyed Southern Boys into a movie or a series, and we offered you a cameo, maybe getting ahead of myself because I'm not even close to doing that yet. But I mean, which character would you want to play?
Ooh, good question.
Well, that's tough, man. You know,
I'm calling Preacher Cody.
yeah, I gotta say, I have an affinity for Cody. But being 5'6", I'm not sure how good of a Sasquatch I would make. But
Then you could be the Fat Jack.
there you go.
Yeah. Practice on some stilts or something.
And
Well, you gotta have costume, the whole
oh yeah, but
thing,
years ago, I had a spot on a Showtime series called Going to California, and the character they cast me as was called
Googling it.
Rhino Boy, and Rhino Boy was an ex-circus freak, and I literally had to fly from North Carolina to Hollywood and get fit for prosthetics for my entire upper body and my
Damn.
So, like, if you were to watch it, you would have no idea that it was me, but it definitely added about 6 inches of height to me just because the character had like a rhino horn. He had the same disorder as the Elephant Man, but he looked more like a rhinoceros, hence the name Rhino Boy.
Going to California, is that the name of the series?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a sci-fi original right there. Along with one of my favorites of all time, Sharknado.
Yeah.
Oh, and Lava Lantula and Two Lava Two Lantula. Love that stuff. I do. I love that stuff. I love the absurd. I love the absolute insanity. It makes me happy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I freaking hate it, because I really want us to keep going longer, we have reached the end of another Written Undead podcast. Adrian. Anywho, Richard Ryan Rose, where can everybody find you, bro?
You find me on my Facebook page, Richard R. Rose, author. I also have a brand new and improved website, thanks to Jen Amato. Sorry, I almost messed up your name there.
That's okay.
Richard R. Rose.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. RichardRRose.com. And you'll also see me at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival coming May 7th. Steve, you ought to show up there as well. It's just right across the state line for you.
Yeah.
And in Townsend, Tennessee, of all places.
Of all places.
Yeah. But also be on the lookout for the Rougarou War, a Wild Eyed Southern Boys prequel coming soon, and it'll be available for pre-order in the next day or two. So be on the lookout for some announcements on that.
For
Angel Ramon.
Yes, my niche. I call you niche today, Jack.
Yeah.
Don't get used to it.
We all know you're the boss. Come on, man.
All right, so you can find me on Amazon, Angelus Maximus or Angel Ramon. You can find my books there. You can find me in my fan group, The Legionnaires of Angelus Maximus, where we do a podcast on Sundays, although tomorrow I'm taking off, so no show then. But next week we'll be having another podcast, so be sure to check that out. And you can also find me on the Written Undead, posting daily some good stuff.
Yes, sir. Gareth, my man, Stevens. Come on, baby. Where can they get it?
Best place to find me is gjstevens.com. And if you sign up to my mailing list, you'll get a Carrie Harris novella and you'll get a In the End novella. See if you like my books.
Fantastic. All right, Jen, you're starting to be an aspiring author. Are you really trying to do this?
Yes, I've decided after a few wonderful people have read over a couple of my ideas that I have jotted down that I am going to start writing zombie fiction. So I'm really excited because the main character in my book that I am writing right now is actually a transplant from the UK to the United States.
Yes, she is.
She's a real life friend of mine who lives in the UK, just in South London. And which is why I asked Gareth where you were from before we even started. But and then I also have another real life friend who's another badass chick who's gonna be the other co-main character with her. They're gonna kind of become, it's morphed into a dynamic duo, possibly maybe series. I'm not sure yet. When it comes, I type and it just comes out, and it's gonna actually have some comedy relief in it. So we'll see how that works.
Well, now, Jen, be sure to keep in touch with all these wonderful authors we got over here as you try to make your way up. They can help you climb that ladder.
The one thing that I have noticed about this group is that this group is the undisputed king of brotherly love. You guys definitely show new people, new writers, people aspiring. You guys do so much for new up and coming. And I love the camaraderie and the brotherhood that is here. And I can't thank you all enough for it.
You're so welcome, Jennifer. You're so welcome. As long as you always call me as long as you call me my Neej, I'll be even happier.
See, I already figured out the secret.
Yes.
Well, for Richard Ryan Rose, Angel Ramon, Jennifer Amato, our two fantastic guests today that we got because
Jackson idiot.
Jackson idiot.
But he's a loving idiot.
Yeah.
Still love him though.
Gareth Stevens and the narrator for the Wild Eyed Southern Boys, which is one of my favorite freaking series of all time, the one and only Steve Vernon. We are out.
Right.